You don't have a discipline problem. You have a structure problem. And until you see the structure you're living inside, every promise you make to yourself is cosmetic. You already know what you should do. That's not the issue. The issue is that your behavior keeps happening even when your intention changes, which means something else is deciding for you. Not physically, psychologically. Because if your actions keep repeating, they are not choices anymore. They are defaults. And defaults always come from structure. Most people believe habits are decisions. They're not. Habits are automatic responses to familiar conditions. You don't wake up and choose to scroll. Your hand moves before your values do. You don't decide to procrastinate. Your environment already decided. You just obeyed it. And the uncomfortable truth is this: your life right now is a perfectly designed system producing exactly the results you're getting. Not the results you want, the results you've built. If this feels slightly irritating, good. That irritation is your mind realizing it doesn't get to hide behind effort anymore. Because effort is not what controls outcomes. Structure does. Most people try to change behavior by attacking behavior. That's the weakest level of control. They say things like, I need to be more consistent. I just need discipline. I'll start fresh on Monday. That's not strategy. That's negotiation with a system that's already stronger than you. If discipline were enough, you'd already be done. Here's the hierarchy you've never been shown. Environment to identity to behavior. Not the other way around. You don't become disciplined and then act differently. You act differently when your environment removes friction. Your identity stops arguing. Your behavior no longer requires willpower. Until then, you're forcing outcomes against gravity, and gravity always wins. If you've ever said, I don't know why I keep doing this, type pattern in the comments. Let's get uncomfortable. Your habits are not neutral. Every repeated action is a vote for the type of person you are becoming, not the person you claim to be, the person your system is producing. You don't rise to your goals. You sink to your defaults, and your defaults are always visible. Look at where your phone lives, who you spend time around, what gets rewarded, what gets ignored, what feels normal. That's the real curriculum shaping you, not your intentions. Most people think identity is something they declare. I'm the kind of person who I see myself as. No. Identity is not declared, it's inferred. From repetition. Your mind watches what you repeatedly do and quietly says, this must be who we are. That's why change feels threatening. Because when you change behavior, you're not just changing actions. You're threatening an identity that's been stabilized by repetition. This is why people self-sabotage right after progress. Not because they're lazy, because the old identity panics. Progress feels like exposure when your identity hasn't updated yet. So the system pulls you back to what feels familiar. Not safe. Familiar. If you've ever improved briefly, then mysteriously collapsed back to baseline, you already know this is true. You didn't lose motivation. Your identity wasn't ready to support the behavior. Here's the part most people skip because it removes excuses. You don't need bigger goals. You need smaller behaviors that confirm a different identity. Not habits for productivity, habits for proof. Proof that you are the kind of person who finishes, shows up without emotional negotiation, acts without needing motivation. Small behaviors aren't powerful because they're small. They're powerful because they're repeatable without resistance. And repetition is what rewrites identity. Most people wait for confidence. That's backwards. Confidence is not a prerequisite. It's a byproduct. Confidence comes after evidence, and evidence only comes from repetition that doesn't rely on mood. Let me say this cleanly. If a habit requires motivation, it is not a habit yet. It's a wish. Real habits feel almost boring, unimpressive, unemotional. That's how you know they're working. Now ask yourself quietly, What do I do automatically that contradicts who I say I want to become? Don't answer out loud. Just notice what came up. That answer matters more than anything else today. Now let's talk about environment, because this is where power actually lives. You are far less rational than you think. You do what's obvious, what's close, what's frictionless, not what's meaningful. Your environment is constantly nudging you, and you mistake those nudges for personality. They're not. They're design. Change the design, and behavior follows without a fight. This is why willpower fails. Willpower is trying to overpower a structure that's quietly working 24/7 against you. That's not strength. That's exhaustion. Powerful people don't resist temptation. They remove it, or make the alternative easier. Not morally superior, structurally superior. Notice how. The behaviors you repeat most require the least effort. That's not an accident. Effort is a signal. Your system is always choosing the path of least resistance. So if you want new behavior, you don't add pressure. You remove friction. Here's a hard truth. If your environment makes bad habits easy and good habits hard, your values are irrelevant. Your outcomes are already decided. Let's talk about cues, because habits don't start with motivation. They start with triggers: time, location, emotion, people. Your body reacts before your mind explains. That's why you suddenly find yourself doing things. It wasn't sudden. It was conditioned. Once you see this, you stop blaming yourself. And that's dangerous, because now you're responsible. Most people try to eliminate bad habits. That's inefficient. Habits don't disappear. They get replaced. Same cue, different response. If you remove the behavior without replacing the structure, the system finds another outlet. That's why suppression fails. Replacement works. Now let's address consistency. Consistency is not intensity. Consistency is lack of negotiation. The moment you ask, "Do I feel like it today?" you've already lost. Systems don't ask how they feel. They execute. That's why systems outperform motivation every time. If you've ever waited to feel ready, type delay. Not because I need the comment, because you need to notice the pattern. The most dangerous habit is the habit of emotional decision-making. Acting based on mood teaches your brain that emotion is in charge. Acting based on structure teaches your brain that behavior is stable. Stability creates trust. Trust creates momentum. Momentum creates identity. You don't change your life by doing something once. You change it by making something inevitable. Inevitable behaviors don't rely on inspiration. They rely on setup. This is where most people quit, because this isn't exciting. It's quiet, mechanical, unsexy. But this is where control lives. Look at your current life honestly. Your habits are not random. They are logical responses to the environment and identity you've built. Once you see that, you stop trying harder. You start designing better. If you recognized yourself in this, comment, "I see the structure." Not for me, for you. Because once you see it clearly, you don't go back.